Hey, everybody, welcome to another week of Wrestling with Wrestling. I am Steve, and joining me as always, my partner in crime, my co host, my fellow wrestling lover, the great Doc Gregory. How's it going, Doc?
Oh, it goes pretty well. Little technical difficulties on my side is why we're a little late because for some reason Google Plus is being a little stupid these days and not telling me that, hey, guess what, the show's getting ready to start. You better get your ass in gear. I knew it, but I just couldn't sign in.
Technical problems. We
Hmm.
live in the future. That's the problem with living in the future is you're still trying to figure some shit out every once in a while. Um, well, I thought we would do things just a little tiny bit differently for this week's show than we usually do. One thing will remain the same. It'll still be 2 hours and a half, but as you who are regular viewers of ours know, this past weekend, Doc and I went to Payback in person. Payback was in Baltimore, which is only about an hour and a half away from where we live, and we were there live in the arena for the whole show. So I wanted to talk about Payback for a lot of this show, not just what we thought of it as a wrestling show, but also just, what we thought being in the crowd and our own sort of insights that maybe you wouldn't get if you only saw TV. And then we'll get to Raw and we'll talk about sort of the major incidents that happened on Raw without going segment by segment by segment. I just think it would be fun to just do a little bit of a looser show this week. And then we'll do the legend and the recommendations like we always do at the end. But Payback. I thought Payback was, first of all, I thought it was a good show just as a wrestling fan. And I thought going to it live was just a terrific experience. And it's something that I'm going to start trying to do more often because it's been such a long time since I went to like a major live show. I've been to some indie shows over thanks to Doc. And I went to indie shows a lot about 15 years ago. But it's been like a long, long time since I went to a big time live wrestling show. And this was such an awesome. So before we get into too many specifics about what it was like going to Payback and what we thought of the show, Doc, what was your general impression of our trip to Baltimore and our attendance of Payback?
Well, it's always a huge experience to get out and do something live, no matter what sport you're actually going to do it live. It just puts something, it gives you a different feeling. Even something as dull as baseball.
Oh, come on!
It gives you a different feeling if you actually go in the event live to feel the capacity of a live audience crowd celebrating and what you love. And you had said something about not being able to do that, so it's like knowing that we were going down to Baltimore to experience 15 years ago, but from 15 years ago, that's a huge experience too, because we're getting ready to head into a huge era called the Attitude Era, so things are starting to be event when you talk about. We were lucky enough to get started in this area, but one not be event in quite a while, and pay-per-view is something special. And to be able to share that with you, buddy, that was just awesome. It's like I know that right as of right now that I finally found some much as I can, and we have an opportunity to go and take in more of this stuff to the fans, something tales from the road, stories that we can tell you. It's just a huge experience and something you never forget. And I'm glad I got to share that with you, bro.
Yeah, me too, man. It was a great experience. And something that we need to start doing more often because I really think that, especially for something like WWE, even though it's a TV show and even though it's a really well-produced TV show and pretty much everything that happens in the arena is done for the cameras, not just for people live in the stands. Even with all of that said, I really think that the show is so much more fun and so much better when you watch it actually there in the arena. Because what I noticed when we watched Payback was that all of that sports entertainment stuff that sort of old school fans like me complain about, that was all kind of pushed to the background. Some of that happened on the big screen and you could see like the backstage promos and that kind of thing. But your main focus of attention is on what's going on right in front of you in that ring. And even though WWE as a whole, its entire product is pitched as, oh, it's sports entertainment, it's not pro wrestling, it's drama wrestling show. That's what it is. and you don't have to listen to the commentary. One of our friends, Jason Jarman, posted a really awesome Facebook comment while we were actually at the show, saying, "I feel I envy Steve and Doc because they get to watch it without commentary." It was awesome. And it's true. You're focusing on the wrestling, and it's a wonderful experience if you're a wrestling fan, because you get to focus on the part of it that you love the best. If you're my kind of, if you're there mostly for the matches, if that's what interests you in wrestling, is wrestling matches, it's the best way to see it, because all that other stuff is still there, but the main event is what happens in that ring. And you don't get that kind of experience watching WWE TV. You don't have to worry about, Booker T and JBL and Michael Cole talking about stuff other than what's going on in the match. There's no distraction. You can just watch the match and enjoy it for what it is. So that was a great experience. And man, I tell you what, because I hadn't been to a wrestling show for a long time and I had never been to a live WWE show, what really impressed me almost as much as the wrestlers themselves was the ring crew, man. The ring crew that the WWE has is fucking world class. They switch that canvas during the show, but that was almost as entertaining as anything else. I don't know what that says.
Yeah, because fans don't notice that stuff, but I mean, if you were paying attention, did you wonder how all that blood off Dolph Ziggler disappeared? I mean, they hit that canvas. It was funny because I definitely paid attention to this. They treated the canvas, because I think they had one underneath for every single match. They swapped it at least pretty much a match or two. They didn't swap it, but they changed that canvas every single match. And then you had the match with John Cena and Rusev, and of course you had the American flag out, which didn't get treated as well as the fucking canvases.
That's true. It's neat, but when they brought down the big American flag, they just kind of dropped it and grabbed it up and ran backstage with it.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely put some of the clips that I filmed at the show online. It kind of gives you a little perspective, because outside the box, outside that, there's Seth Rollins and J&J Security walking down to the ringside. That's what you're seeing. But man, you see like 3 or 4 guys are like backpedaling, following them the whole way. It's like there's a lot of work and a lot of camera work that goes into what you see there. So just to be able to sit up there that high, and then when I say we there that high, I do mean the very back row of the arena, but I am not complaining, because those were awesome freaking seats. Awesome freaking seats. I don't care. They were great. Some. You can judge by the video on Wrestling with Wrestling's Facebook page. But I would sit there again, and I would sit there every time, because you don't miss a beat, and it's not too loud. The lower you sit, then the acoustics get a little bit worse, and then when people were screaming and chanting throughout the whole thing, you start to go a little bit deaf. But up there, the acoustics are great, and you hear everything.
Yeah, the acoustics aren't quite good enough to be able to hear John Cena calling his spots. But, well, that's it was interesting to me, because like I say, I haven't been to a big live show in many years, and I haven't been to a WWE live show ever. So it was interesting to see like what was the same, different from how you watch it on TV. And really the crowd reaction, at least as far as I could tell, was pretty consistent. Like, I feel like when you watch a live WWE show, now when you watch a tape show like SmackDown or something, there you can often tell that they're kind of, when you watch a live episode of Raw or a live pay-per-view, the crowd reactions are pretty much the same as what we heard when we were actually there in the arena. Really the only matches on the show that the crowd was quiet for was the pre-show match with Sandow and Axel versus the Ascension, and then the Divas match later in the show. Everything else we were all pretty up for. And even the Sandow Axel match, like people were cheering for the entrances. When Sandow came out to Macho Man's music, I mean, people were really going nuts for that. But then once the match started, we kind of quieted down. And then with the Divas match, I noticed sort of the same thing. Once the match started, people just kind of got restless and just kind of watched. And when Nikki started clapping to try to get us into it, people clapped along. But then as soon as Nikki stopped, everybody else stopped. Like it didn't really work to get people into the match. But everything else was pretty hot. You know, I mean, like during the Sheamus Ziggler match, Sheamus puts Ziggler into a chin lock, and we all start clapping immediately. And you're like, God, you know, don't like he just put the rest hold on, guys. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, I said this is what Dolph Ziggler is saying to Sheamus right now in that rest hold. It's like, I just got into this goddamn thing. It's like, could you give me a moment to rest before you start rallying me up?
But and you know, the other nice thing about being at the top of the arena like that is when they go outside the ring, like Cena and Rusev did, you can still see pretty much everything. You know, that's something that I always would sort of worry about when you watch a match on TV, where a match outside of the ring, and you're like, how the fuck can the people in the arena even see what's going on? Well, if you're up real high, unless they go backstage, of course, if you're up real high, you can see pretty much everything. So if they go, you know, up toward the stage or out into the crowd, if you're up in the top row of the arena, you can just sort of look down and be like, oh, there they are. You know, you can see them just fine. What I'm basically saying is get the worst seats, get the cheapest seats when you go to a WWE show, get way up high because you can see everything. Well, let's talk about.
We even had our own personal shelf to put our drinks and food on.
Absolutely.
You don't get that. Most people have to put that shit on the floor by their feet and hope it don't get kicked over. Not us.
Yeah, I'm going to put this right here. I meant to try and watch it on the network to see what it was like, you know, on when it was televised, but I didn't get a chance to see it, so I'm just going purely from what we saw in the arena. I thought it was a really good show.
I did the thing though. I didn't watch. I have not yet watched the paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I was paying attention. Like I was trying to watch it like a wrestling show, so I think I got a pretty good sense of whether or not it was a good show. I mean, yeah, of course, it's always going to be more fun when you're actually there. But even so, you know, I think I got a pretty good sense of, you know, of what it was like as a wrestling show. And I thought it was a good show. I thought that the 2 out of 3 falls tag title match was good. And I really loved the finish. I loved the, you know, the switcheroo that they pulled with Xavier and Kofi. And I just love. Amazing. We've said this before, but it's amazing just what a little tiny change, like just turning New Day heel and having him cheat and just play old school classic, like, you know, cheating chicken shit heels. They go from being like one of the worst parts of the show to being one of, because all 3 of those guys are fucking awesome and they're doing the heel thing so perfectly. And that tag title match was so great. Really, really good match. What did you think of that one?
Oh yeah, they came down and they immediately got on whatever his name was from the Baltimore Orioles.
Al Jones.
Yeah, in his face that they hadn't won forever, and you know I have the Coke bottles to prove that they were absolutely right. So facts. That's what's great about, you know, that's a great when you're being a heel. If you can throw a fact in somebody, it works really well. Awesome, great fucking response from the audience for Kid Natalya, for Kid and Cesaro. Natalya was absolutely drop dead good. New Day was on fire, and I'm loving their gimmick now. What they're doing, you know, I don't see anything wrong. I don't care what you say, people. New Day does not suck. You know, New Day, every single one of them's good. And, you know, when Big E grabs a hold of you and gives you that belly to belly or throws you around like a rag doll, you know, that's what Big E do. I mean, I'm telling you, that's what he do.
He is just. And, you know, speaking of, I don't know if I said this to you while we were there or not, but I know I had the thought from the time, really from almost the time we got out of your car at the garage to the time that we finally left. I probably heard that New Day chant from people more than any other chant. Just going just purely by what the people were chanting. New Day was by far the most over act on the show. I mean, people did that New Day sucks thing. I don't even know how many times before the show, during the show, after the show. That fucking thing is over like crazy. At least it was in Baltimore.
In the parking garage, trying to get out that night. So WWE can stir up a crowd and give them that excitement for a live show. I mean, that, you know, we're sitting in the parking garage waiting to get out. And you can still hear like mass groups of chants, you know, and people, and the line of people that just stand around waiting at the ramp, hoping that they can catch a fucking minor glimpse of a superstar walking out to go home for the night. I mean, it's amazing.
We saw that at the very beginning too, when we were walking around to the front of the arena. You noticed that Jerry Lawler was just kind of standing away from where anybody could get to him, but people were still looking at him, and they started chanting Jerry for him, and he's just standing outside, talking to somebody. They're like, "Holy shit, it's Jerry Lawler!" And you know what? I mean, I didn't do that, but I don't blame people for doing that. Like that if you're a wrestling fan, it's like, holy shit, that's fucking Jerry Lawler. Like that's a legend with my own eyes. There he is. That's a really cool feeling. I mean, I kind of got that feeling when we were watching the show, because again, it's more exaggerated for me because it was the first time I'd been to a live show. One of your favorite wrestlers. Like for me, it was Randy Orton. I had a feeling when we were watching Randy Orton in the main event when he first came out. And I'm not like I like Randy Orton. I admire his skills, but I'm not like a huge Randy Orton mark, But I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Randy Orton. Like, this is really cool. That's fucking Randy Orton. I'm looking at him right now, or John Cena. Holy shit, that's fucking John Cena. I'm not the biggest John Cena fan in the world, but shit, I'm watching John Cena. He's right there.
Yeah, when I was filming that, I mean, when Rusev came down, I definitely switched my camera on. Man, like this is a moment you don't catch very often. This is John Cena's fucking entrance into the WWE. And I'm gonna get it on video. So that's why I turned my cameras on. It's like, I know I'm not a John Cena fan either, but I recognize what the fuck it is, And you get chills.
There was one point during that Cena Rusev match where we were each doing half of the "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chant. Or I was yelling "Let's go Cena" and you were yelling "Cena sucks." So at least one of the Cenas for that show was an adult, because it was me. The rest of them might have been kids, but at least me. I was one adult yelling "Let's go Cena." Speaking of that match, not only did I think that was a good match, and apparently a lot of people who watched the show live didn't like the match, but I thought it was a fine match, and I have to brag a little bit. The booking was exactly like I said it would be.
Yeah, Lana caused Rusev the match, but I agree with you. I mean, ever since Cena has, and it might just be we're blind to it. I mean, because the world title and he was defending, maybe not so much, but then it wasn't so special because he wasn't out there every week defending that world title, doing the same damn shit all the time. But he's doing it with the world title and representing, and yeah, maybe the audience wasn't there because they're worrying about the next time they can get the John Cena chants going, because that's the fun part about it, because they can't stop long enough to realize that what John Cena's doing right now is definitely good for business. The authority should stand up and take notice.
Yeah, the real authority. I mean, I actually think, and I thought this when we were watching, when I was watching Raw this week too, is that I really think this of Cena's career, these last few months, have been some of the favorite work of mine that he's ever done. Where he's still John Cena, he's still like a main event guy, but he's working in the mid card. He's defending a mid card title. He's elevating the championship. Almost every promo he gives, he talks about how awesome the U.S. championship is and how prestigious the title is, and how anybody who wants a title shot can get a title shot, and he's going to be a fighting champion. Like, to me, that's what you should do with every title. But it's nice to see John Cena doing that with the U.S. title and really making that like, that's basically his gimmick now. Like, as long as he has that belt, that's his gimmick, is that he's the fighting U.S. champion who loves his title and wants to defend it against all comers. Like, that to me is a great gimmick. And I love to see a guy like John's version of The Rock or Hogan working with mid-card guys, working with young guys, working even with developmental guys on Raw, which is awesome. It's a really cool spot. It elevates the title. It gives him something new to do. He's not, I mean, Christ, as much as I admire both guys, like, I don't think I ever want to see John Cena wrestle Randy Orton again. I've just seen it a million times. I don't think I ever want to see John Cena wrestle fucking, Triple H again. I've seen it. It's done. I've already seen it. But Cena versus Neville, Cena versus Sami Zayn, Cena versus Heath Slater, when that finally actually happens at some point, that's fresh, that's new, that's interesting, that's cool. The Cena U.S. title stuff, I'm loving it. I hope they keep it going at least until SummerSlam, and if it's still going by then, fucking let him keep it a little longer. It's a great thing for him to do.
Yeah, I walked through the house the other night and I gave that a huge, like, I was watching Raw Monday, I was like, And then Dana's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I'm enjoying Cena's spot these days. I don't want to admit that shit, but I am actually enjoying John Cena these days."
Told me, hey, after WrestleMania, John Cena is going to be your favorite part of Raw every week. I would have been like, fuck you. But it's true. I mean, of the stuff that you can reliably expect will happen on Raw week after week, John Cena's open challenge and his matches have become my favorite part of the show.
Which is nice. It just shows that the WWE is capable of running a great storyline for a character. Unfortunately, it's for a character who has reaped success for the last decade.
It's the only downside. Like if they put the U.S. title on a younger guy and had him do the exact same thing, that will be even better. You know, if they put the title, even I should on someone like Neville, who is brand new, have Neville win the title and then have him come out and make an open challenge every week, and have him kick ass, and make him into a star.
If any, John Cena is the one doing it. He's building the reputation of it, so the person that actually does take that belt from John Cena it's going to be a huge win.
Yeah,
for them
anymore, which I love. I think it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks since he's kicked out of somebody's finish in one of those Raw matches. It was like, oh, he's wrestling with these, you know, undercard guys, but he's fucking kicking out of their finishes. But he's not doing that anymore. So it's like, oh, this is great. So what did you think of? Well, let's keep with what happened on Payback for now, and then we'll talk about Raw. We'll talk about what happened to follow up with this on Raw. But what did you think of the Rusev Lana, you know, the booking of that, and then them sort of finally doing that breakup?
The breakup, you knew it was coming. It had to happen. And with her making quit, I thought that was a really smart way to do it, because, you know, obviously he was screaming in Bulgarian, she could translate, but you know, and David Otunga was on the pre-show for Raw, and he explained, because, you know, luckily he has really smart people in his other business, which is lawyer. So he was able to translate that, and when you translate what Rusev was saying, it translates to "I quit," which is why Lana jumped in the ring to say "I quit." I was up and screaming. I'm like, that is not legal. That is absolutely not legal. You cannot have somebody quit for you. Nobody walked into Vietnam from the United States and said, you know what, they're out of here. It doesn't happen.
But if that was we should have done that. We should have sent, like, you know, the Canadians in there and thrown in the towel for us.
It takes me back to the whole why Bob Backlund lost his, or, you know, back in the day when Bob Backlund lost his title. He thrown it out.
Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rusev told Lana what to do. You sit in that goddamn chair and you don't get up out of it. And I was like, you listen to him, woman. You sit in that chair and go to the back of the line. He's a notorious line.
Which, honestly, if I were Seth Rollins, I would say, you know what, let him cut in line. I'm not worried, because he never fucking wins anyway. Because that's the truth. Like,
I did what? Fucking Dean Ambrose, just go get him, and you know, and he was a little after him. You know, he did exactly what they told him to do, and then they went toe to toe for a while until, you know, the Authority. You know, he's sick the dogs on him, but that's what happens when you run with dogs.
Almost sure that's how it was going to go. And I understand, like, well, it was when they specifically said the match can only end when you say the words "I quit." I thought, well, that's going to be a little weird when Lana quits for him. But I still figured that's how it was going to go. But yeah, I mean, if you think about probably the most famous "I Quit" match that they've ever done, at least in the WWE match, that WrestleMania 13, that was the finish for that match. Austin never said he quit. He passed out, and the referee stopped the match.
Yep.
That match in your history that is like a really famous match that they talk about a lot, that they put on DVDs all the time, that, you know, is considered one of the real defining matches that sort of set the tone for what happened a few years matches.
Oh yeah, that is the pivotal match that made Steve Austin. That is the match.
This probably isn't going to happen, but what I would love to see happen would be for Owens to, and then have John Cena come to NXT and fight him for it. That to me would be the ideal situation. But I quit. It's like it's a little ridiculous, you know. I mean, it was a good match, but I just, you know, that finish could have been a little better. Like they could have just done without Cena passing out to win the title. Like, just fucking kick him from one end of the ring to the other and beat him so bad that the ref has to stop the match. Like, Oh, I don't know if I could keep my excitement.
I do want to mention John Cena passed out, and I'm thinking this is not going to be pretty because he's about ready to put that thing in a very uncomfortable place. And Eric Rowan, they're back
that's
together
right.
because they,
Yeah.
But luckily, John, with the sun shone through the arena that night, and Superman got his powers back, and boy, he just bounced out of nowhere. He yanked that rope out of Rusev's hand, and put him in his submission move so that we could get to the finish.
Yeah. Make-A-Wish kids.
Which I think we saw a few that him and Rose Mendez are just loving all over each other. So at least we got to see these superstars, even though it wasn't for anything important. They were on Raw. So
let's talk about the main event of Payback, because again, I thought it was a really strong match, and there were individual moments in the match that I thought were just terrific, were just really amazing. And I almost wish that they had done a little bit more in the build-up to the match to set the table for those moments. And specifically, I'm talking about the stuff where first all three guys who formerly were the Shield teamed up on Randy Orton. And, and of course they did like the triple power bomb on Orton, and everybody went nuts for that. Like that was Triple H, Stephanie. And then they kind of started breaking off, where like then, Reigns and Ambrose turned on Rollins and took him out. And then there was one of my favorite moments of the match where my guy, Dean Ambrose, gets in the ring and he like calls Roman Reigns in. He's like, all right, fuck this. Let's go. It's me and you, I thought that was awesome. But as we talked about on our show last week, in the build-up to the match, they made very little of the fact that it was all three Shield guys in the match. I mean, you'd think that would have been like a major selling point to the match. Like, oh my God, for the first time since they broke up, all three members of the Shield are going to be against each other in the same match. They didn't really talk about that too much, but they
might have to climb. So I mean, it should be that the whole scenario should be interesting. I did definitely like what you didn't mention. They wanted that moment to pop. They did not want to spoil it by saying these guys should be fighting, because then you erase any reason whatsoever that they would come together to coordinate something like that cool. But you saw, all the tag teams come down and
it was
most of them are silly little tag teams.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a match like an Elimination Chamber match where there's going to be 6 teams in it, that's what you should do. You should have everybody come out and mix it up with each other. I mean, that's perfectly. That was a really strong match, and I was actually we were both right about the outcome. Rollins won the match and kept the title. I was pleasantly surprised that Dean didn't take the pin. Rollins got the win by pinning Randy Orton with a pedigree.
With a pedigree, yeah. Although, and I said it, and you can hear it in the video, that's not as good as Triple H would have delivered that pedigree. It was good, but I tell you, I mean, you delivered a couple more prettier. Even the curb stomp looks so much more prettier than the delivery to Randy.
That kind of took me by surprise.
Out of nowhere. Pedigree, yeah. That was definitely pedigree out of nowhere, because I did not see that he was going to get the 3 count on that.
But overall, a good match. And again, something like that was a match that it seemed like the live crowd was just totally the way. No matter what was happening, people were interested in what was going on in the match. I mean, there were chants for the RKO. There were we were all popping for the stuff when the Shield came back together and then split up again. It was it's not going to help it if they go for a couple weeks without giving Rollins to win. But that's a good sign to me, because Rollins is a heel. Like, you should be aggravated when he wins. You should care. You're like, oh, Rollins. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's the level he should be at right now. He shouldn't be mad. So that's a good thing to me. It means that he's over as a heel, which is good. I'm in the Intercontinental title match.
It's a open challenge.
Now, hey,
be comparing to yourself, sir.
He is, lose, but I think that would be great. Mm-hmm. Say just fucking go nuts and get disqualified or get counted out or something. I think that'd be great. Well, Doc, do you have great with it? I'd like for them to finally turn Kane and have him beat Kane. That to me would be awesome. That to me would be like to solidify him as no, he's for real.
Be
Definitely. And do Kane versus Rollins and have Rollins beat him.
That's not. Don't know if that's going to happen soon. It seems like
they keep going back to. They keep teasing the Kane babyface turn that they've made everybody want to see, and now they're like, ah ha ha, he's still a heel. He's not
really. Do you really?
Story that they're telling, and I think they've done a good enough job setting up Kane versus Rollins as something appealing that I mean I wouldn't mind seeing. Like I do think Kane's a better heel than he is a babyface. I mean, no question about that. I'd rather see Kane break loose of the Authority and be a babyface maybe for one last run against Rollins than, you know, either that or just have see here's my compromise solution. If you don't want to turn Kane, if you want to keep Kane for the Authority, then keep Triple H and Stephanie off TV, like period, except for maybe an appearance or two every once in a while, and just have Kane be the on-screen authority figure. Because whenever Triple H and Stephanie comes out, it's like then that's when Kane becomes the lapdog, and Kane's just like, you know, yes sir, no sir, whatever. And I just don't find that very interesting. But when Kane is the authority figure, I can get behind that, you know.
Yeah, you're. It's like when mommy and daddy are home. It's like, yeah, he but does wield it well when he's the only one in charge. So yeah, that would be great for him and a role for Kane, just to for them to stay on TV for a while, so that we get an idea and you know, comfortable with the fact that he's like the he's basically, you know, this for the Authority while they're away. You know, they're not here. I'm basically, they're the president and I'm the vice president. When they're away, I'm in charge. That's I'm the rule here.
Yeah, and I like that role than Triple H is. I just don't think. I mean, I think Triple H is a really skilled wrestler, and I think he knows exactly what to do and exactly how to. I just don't think he's a very good. I don't think lately he has been a very good heel, in the sense that I think he does too many things to try and get babyface reactions for himself. You know,
yeah, angry at you. It's like I'm going to punish you because you've been an asshole. That's what I do. And Triple H does the, you know, I'm going to punish you. Look at the power I wield, and I'm a cocky son of a bitch, and you know I do it because I can.
Yeah. The other thing is nobody ever gets over on Triple H, or if they do, they get over for one night, and then he comes back the next night, and it's like it never happened.
Not even Sting.
Not even Sting. I know. Not even Sting. In fact, Sting not only lost to Triple H, he shook the motherfucker's hand afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
He beat him by smacking him in the face with a hammer, and then he had him shake his hand.
And confused the line. Whoa, now I'm really confused.
Yeah. We're not supposed to. Well, let's Payback. I thought was a great experience and a great show. Let's talk about Raw the next night, because there were some things that happened on Raw that I think are important to talk about, and there are some things that were really, really cool that got me really excited. But first, let's talk about some of the things that maybe didn't. I thought maybe they would try to handle a little differently, like with the Elimination Chamber coming up. They just kind of announced what the matches would be. Like nobody really had to earn any kind of a spot to get in those Elimination Chamber matches. And I know we had talked for the last couple of weeks, ever since they announced that they were going to do the Elimination Chamber as a show on the WWE Network, that it would be cool if they did like qualifying matches or something, like so that when you got into that chamber match for the Intercontinental title, which is one of the big matches, so you had done something to deserve to be there. But instead, they just kind of said who was in it. And some of the guys in it are guys who have recently lost matches, which I felt kind of strange about that. Like on the first segment of Raw this week, actually, you know, Sheamus comes out and Triple H and Stephanie have the Intercontinental title belt in the ring because it's vacant since Daniel Bryan left. And they're like, we're going to have an Elimination Chamber match, and we're going to crown a new Intercontinental champion. And Sheamus comes out, and I thought Sheamus's part was really cool because he was like, look, just give me the belt. You know, you don't have to have a chamber match for it. I deserve to be champion. Just give it to me, which is cool.
No, you wanted him out. I stopped the infamous yes, Chan. Just give me the fucking belt.
Sheamus is a heel, and I think that's what he should say. But then Ryback comes out, and I like Ryback. And Ryback's promo was actually really good, and I loved the part where he told Stephanie that he had the microphone and he was talking. I actually think, incredible as it may seem, I think Ryback has turned into a really good promo because he sounds natural. He sounds like he's just speaking his mind. He's not reading from a script, which maybe is what's happening. I don't know. But my first thought was, motherfucker, Ryback lost at Payback. He lost. How the fuck is he going to lose a big high-profile match on pay-per-view and then come out and talk his way into a title match? Like, that's one of the problems with the way they book in general, is you can lose a match and you don't suffer any consequences for it. It's like whoever wins and loses, it literally doesn't matter. If you lose a match on a pay-per-view, you can come out to TV the next night and get yourself a title shot. Well, then what the fuck? Why are they even wrestling?
You think that's a championship, and like it's like what makes you think you deserve one?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, but like with this Intercontinental Championship, my position here, that got handpicked by the WWE to be in this match, which means that's how they fucking see me. I'm at that level. I'm at a World Heavyweight Championship level, but obviously they see me as Intercontinental Championship, material.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed about the Elimination Chamber Intercontinental title match that was a little disappointing to me is that for whatever reason they decided Neville's not going to be in it, which I thought was a shame because I thought Neville has been kind of running with those Intercontinental title sort of guys since he debuted, and I thought he would have been a nice addition to that match, but it looks like they're going another direction. I was a little disappointed to see Neville won't be in the Elimination Chamber match.
You just have to leave, sir. You'll get there.
I like Neville and Bo. They were great in NXT, but I was hoping Neville would get into that Elimination Chamber match
with some I don't know, pretty good talent, but I'm still waiting for that good talent to start shining. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're running on diesel. Let's put some good gas in them motherfuckers and get them going.
Chamber match for the tag titles, which is interesting because they've never done a tag title. They've never done a tag team Elimination Chamber match. So that'll be interesting just to watch, just for pure novelty's sake. And it's basically every tag company. Like they went and found, okay, who all's in a tag team? Do we have 6 of them? Thank Christ, we have 6 of them. You're all in the match, because it's right. So yeah, and it's New Day and Cesaro and Kid and Los Matadores and Primetime Players, and who else?
Lucha Dragons.
The Lucha Dragons, and the Ascension. So those are the teams in the elimination. So that should be a good match. But again, they just kind of with the tag team titles. I guess I can understand it a little more because those are almost all of the tag teams they have. So for a 6-sided match, you kind of have to have them all in there.
At least it's all what I like to call the, as cartoony as they are, they're the serious tag teams, because I don't take what Axel and Damien's doing right now as way too serious.
No.
Especially for Damien. It's like, you finally break loose and they just cornhole you back into what you were fucking doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, you made Axel shave.
The Damien and Axel versus Ascension match, I thought this feels like something from a really bad indie show be on WWE TV, and I say a bad indie show because there are lots of awesome indie shows that you should, if you're a wrestling fan, you should check out. It's very important to support independent wrestling. But you go to a Jim Cornette says it's the type of indie wrestling where they just do the moves that people do on TV. They're not really trying to set themselves apart by being great athletes or great innovators. Jeff Hardy does a move everybody likes. Okay, I'm going to do that move. And that's what it felt like. It felt like, here are 2 guys pretending to be more popular. And I just thought it was terrible. That was really the only match on the show that we saw that I just did not care for at all. I was just like, oh God.
Yeah, kind of honestly glad that they put the Ascension over, because, man, the Ascension deserves some good wins, and it gave me a little bit of an insight on how serious they took the whole hours.
Well, that's what I said after the match. I was like, well, now we know what the pecking order is. Mm-hmm. We finally know who the Ascension's allowed to beat, and it's Damien Sandow and Curtis Axel. But yeah, let's talk on Raw. Well, it looks like they picked up on the Rusev and Lana storyline, where now like Rusev and Lana are officially split up, and it looks like Lana is allying herself with Dolph Ziggler now. I'm pretty sure Rusev missed his cue to come out and do his run in because Lana kisses Dolph and nothing happens. They just kind of stand in the ring like,
awkward moment of silence.
Are chanting for Lana to kiss him again. So she kisses him again, and there's more awkward silence. And then when Rusev finally comes out, you can hear Dolph go, "Oh, here he goes."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I guess that's the direction we're moving now. Where Cena's going to go do something else, and Rusev and Dolph are probably going to work together. And the reason they're going to be fighting is because Lana has chosen Dolph as her new man. So
if there were some flubs during this whole thing, I mean, and it was horrible watching it unfold on TV. I do not think they went about it the right way. Dolph Ziggler. I mean, the way it should have been written was that when Rusev basically kicked Lana to the curb, would really just be masculinely brutal toward her, in her face, threatening her. She can throw the slap at her and piss him off, and then Dolph Ziggler comes down and runs down a saber, and that is what sparks interest between Lana and Dolph Ziggler. Just her pursuing. I'm sorry. I mean, what's that make you ladies look like?
Yeah.
Don't go and especially, and here's another thing that got me about Dolph Ziggler. Boy, he was just adamant. Pretty boy was just so adamant about the stitches he got in his face.
Yeah.
Stitches, but that's cool. Chicks like scars. I got stitches. Stitches. Did you see my stitches? I don't care about this. Look at my stitches. Oh, stitches, stitches, stitches. I'm like, are we getting a little too much, Dolph? I think we.
He's got tiny stitches. You can't even see him all that much. It's not like he's disfigured or anything. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would have made more sense to have Dolph come out and make the save. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with Lana being the one who chooses Dolph, but you're right. In terms of the Dolph versus Rusev thing, it is ass backwards. The hero should come out and attack the heel. And the way it was is like they kind of did it both ways. Like the segment ended with Dolph dropping Rusev, but they kind of had to take the long way around to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's talk about the end of the show. We'll talk about last because the end of the show was like Seth Rollins appreciation night. But I want to talk about my favorite part of the show, which and not because once again John Cena was working with a guy from NXT, but this time the NXT guy. It was the current NXT champion, formerly known as Kevin Steen, currently known as Kevin Owens, who is like one of my favorite wrestlers in the world at this point because I just love him on so much. And I thought this whole thing with Steen and Cena was awesome. It was by far my favorite part of the show, even though they didn't actually wrestle. What did you think of the whole Owens and Cena face-off?
Well, I'll go into a little bit, but I definitely know that this also is one of my favorite parts of the show, and when you start talking about it, you're gonna put the sparkle, shine on it that it needs. Man, yeah, absolutely chills up my fucking every hair on my arm standing up, every hair on my leg standing up. Just the excitement of Kevin Owens coming down there. I didn't exactly know what to expect, but yeah, I mean, brilliant. And like when he got up and Cena's face, like first off, don't fucking tell me anything that I need to do because I've been in this business for a long, long time, longer than you, buddy. You don't have any right to tell me what to do. And I'm like, oh man, right up in Cena's face, telling him like it is. I'm like, I'm getting chills right now. Just actually, it was awesome to the core, to the point. And I don't care if John Cena or any title is on the line. I don't give a shit. But just that one moment that he got over on John Cena and kept rewinding that. Kept doing the most perfect segment I have seen in a long time. It was brilliantly written, brilliantly performed, and visually was just you just can't.
It was so cool. And Owens is so good because he knows how to come across as like a cool heel, but to still get booed. You know, like one of the things that sort of got on a lot of wrestling fans' nerves back in the Attitude Era, especially in WCW with the NWO guys, was they were supposed to be heels, but they would act like, you know, cool guys and they would get cheered. You know, that was always the rap on like Nash and Hall. It was like, well, they're supposed to be heels, but nobody boos them, you know, because everybody thinks they're cool guys. Well, Steen or Owens is good enough to do that same sort of thing, but he still gets booed because he's such a fucking dick. Like, he does all the same shit that the classic acts like he doesn't care. He's not impressed by anybody. He doesn't ever really, I mean, sometimes he backs down from a fight, but he never does it. He never looks like he's afraid. You know, he does it kind of like Brock does it, where he acts like, well, I'm not going to fight you right now. You know, like I fight for a paycheck. I'm not getting paid to fight you right now. Fuck you. And he just walks away. But he gets booed because he's such an asshole. And, you know, that moment that you just described, when Cena says, let me give you some advice, son, and steams him off and says, let's get one thing straight about anything, because I've been doing this longer than you have. I might not have gotten my big break until last year, but I've been wrestling for 15 years. So you don't get to give me veteran advice. You know, I thought that was amazing. I thought that was just like you say, I thought it was one of the best segments on Raw they've done in a real long fucking time. And then the ending when Owens power bombs him and then steps on the fucking more. I thought that was just because it makes you want to see the match. It makes you want to see John Cena fight this guy. And it was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. I finally call Kevin Owens up from NXT full time to the main roster, that they continue to treat him like that they continue to allow him to come out and be a badass and get in people's faces, a jerk, and not, you know, I'm like, I would love to see him act that way in the ring with Triple H. I think I would probably die happy if Kevin Owens would come out to the ring and would look at Triple H with the same look of disgust that he looks at John Cena and just like, yeah, whatever.
Triple H will recognize Kevin Owens for what he is, and he's going to put him right in his fucking corner, so that he can roll in that shine that Kevin Owens is going to bring. I mean, that's what Triple H does. That's what he's doing with Seth Rollins right now.
Triple H wants to get himself over more than anything, I think, but he also recognizes talent. And Owens doesn't really have any of the downsides that the other guys have had. Like, people always bitch, all Dolph Ziggler's too small, blah, blah, blah. Kevin Owens isn't like a giant, but he's a big guy. Like, he stands next to John Cena and he doesn't look like a little tiny person. And when he picks up John Cena for a power bomb and power bombs him, it looks right. It doesn't look like that shouldn't happen. And then he does the little thing with his shoulder when he walks away. I just love that. He does those little things. Like, he does these little heel things. Like, he power bombs John Cena, stands on the title, and then as he's leaving the arena, as he's walking back up the aisle, he just, oh, that was amazing.
And how he dismissed him. It's like, dude, I'm the NXT champion. Fuck your belt.
Exactly. He holds both titles up, and then he puts the U.S. title down next to Cena and fucking puts his foot on it.
I'm doing that.
Authority Rollins stuff that they ended the show. Elimination Chamber, or at least the world title match at Elimination Chamber, is going to be Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, which they kind of, I mean, Dean Ambrose had a match against Bray Wyatt on this episode of Raw, which he lost. And granted, he lost because there was interference and stuff like that, but still, I mean, Dean Ambrose lost the match. So the guy who lost on Raw is now going to challenge for the world title at your next event. Whatever, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's how they're going to do it. But what did you think of the Seth Andrews, that's another guy, Seth Rollins appreciation night at Raw?
It's the appreciation night, what they do for any superstar. We've seen it, you know, take place. Anybody who's had that title for a while on the heel side has gotten an appreciation night. You know, Steve Austin, The Rock, Mick Foley, come on, the list goes on and on of people who've gotten appreciation nights. Vince McMahon. The video package was great. I shared that on our Wrestling with Wrestling Facebook page. I was like, I thought that's one thing the WWE can do, and I don't think there's anyone fucking better that can put out a promotional package and present it to you the way the WWE can. I mean, and I think they did brilliant with that package that Kane apparently made, because he's, you know, he works behind the scenes like that in video production.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we put that all together for him, but it was good. And of course, Dean comes out, and you know, I know you're tickled about Dean getting the opportunity, and I look at, you know, who, you know, what have you done for me lately? You haven't really, you didn't fare too well against Bray Wyatt. You certainly didn't win last night. You didn't win at Payback, and maybe it's just because you didn't get a title run like Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, that for some delusion, you know, because you are unhinged, for some reason inside your crazy freaking mind, you think you deserve it. You have beaten Seth Rollins before, but you haven't beaten him lately. Heavyweight championship scenario, because, you know, certainly you and I are going to enjoy the hell out of this match. I don't care how they got there or why the formula is correct to give us a good matchup. As far as the appreciation night, yeah, like I said, run of the mill, no big thing there. I still love how they don't let Joey Mercury speak too much. He's just silent. You know, he's just overly emotional about any situation that he doesn't have the words to speak.
Yeah, it's beyond words. What was the bit you said? There was a bit where Triple H made a comparison with Seth Rollins.
Yeah. He said he was so proud of him. He sees a little glimmer, a little bit of himself, a little bit of the cerebral assassin in Seth Rollins. Yeah. I'm like, are you sure that's who you see? Because like you had a really good, probably still really good friends of yours that you ran around with for a long period of time. You know, when I see like Seth Rollins do something like a high knee or dive off the top of a fucking cage, I don't think Triple H would do that. I mean, Triple H, you won't take a shoulder to the ring post, like through the top and second rope. That's one move he will not do, because he can't time it right. So he doesn't do. But you know, I mean, you should have really compared. I thought you were wrong there. He's not compared to Triple H, but I would definitely compare him to a Shawn Michaels, except he does shit that even Shawn Michaels didn't do. But just being young and to perform at the top tier level and not be the biggest guy, that's Shawn Michaels.
Definitely, I agree. I think it's certainly, you know, an apt comparison. And I think he hasn't really had, I don't think Rollins has had what I would call like a great match, like a Shawn Michaels type match. And I think if you give him an opportunity, if you put him in the ring with a worthy opponent and you give them 20-25 minutes to just fucking go, I think it's easily going to happen. I mean, I think he's a great worker and he's a great psychologist and he's crazy over as a heel. You know, I have nothing but good things to say about Rollins. I mean, and of course, you know, I love Dean Ambrose and I'm glad that he's getting a title shot again. But I just wish, what drives me crazy is if they want to put Dean in that, then fucking book him better. Because I agree with you. He hasn't done anything to earn a title shot. You know, he hasn't won very many matches. He hasn't won very many matches for almost a year. I mean, he's been on TV a lot. He loses. And even the couple of matches he's won recently, it's not as if he's been coming across as like, you know, a dominant guy. And now all of a sudden they're pushing him into the title. It's like, well, what the fuck? You can't just do that. I mean, I love him. I think he's great. I think he should be one of the top guys in the company right now. But you haven't built him that way.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you wrap it around the whole storyline that he's forcing their hand. He doesn't deserve it, because the story goes that he's been put to the back of the line, but he refuses to go to the back of the line. He's a notorious line cutter.
Which, honestly, if I were Seth Rollins, I would say, you know what, let him cut in line. I'm not worried, because he never fucking wins anyway. Because that's the truth. Like,
I did where they said, you know, it's just fucking Dean Ambrose. Just go get him. And, you know, and he was a little apprehensive after him. You know, he did exactly what they told him to do and stepped up to Dean Ambrose right there at the end. And they went toe-to-toe for a while until, you know, the authority, you know, he sick the dogs on him. But that's what happens when you run with dogs like that. You know, you get bitten.
Yeah. So I think those are all the really big occurrences on Raw I think they wanted to cover. They are going to do Cena versus Owens at Elimination Chamber. That Elimination was turning out to be a pretty big show.
Mm-hmm.
The two chamber matches, the Ambrose versus Rollins match, the Cena versus Owens match. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
I know you're excited. Calm down.
I can't. I'm way more excited to see Sasha versus Becky on NXT tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it may be where Kevin Owens' future lies. So I'm definitely interested in seeing NXT tonight and seeing what happens. The pay-per-view, right?
Yeah, tonight. Yeah, yep, tonight. This probably isn't going to happen, but what I would love to see happen would be for Owens to win the U.S. title and take it back to NXT, and then have John Cena come to NXT and fight him for it. That to me would be the ideal situation.
It's not.
Maybe Owens.
That's what I'm hoping.
Kevin Owens were to beat John Cena like he beat Sami Zayn to win the title. Like, just fucking kick him from one end of the ring to the other and beat him so bad that the ref has to stop the match. Like, I don't know if I could contain my excitement.
I do want to get into some information of Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. They're back together right. Because they kicked the shit out of we used to care about them. They almost had a time to shine. They kicked the shit out of Zack Ryder and I believe it was Fandango. They teamed kicked the living shit out of them. And I think we got to see Adam Rose, who, of course, we know broke kayfabe and knows he has a family and a child he's, basically fighting for, who struggles. And, of course, we got to see him by them, and they're making out, kissing him and Rose Mendez are just loving all over each other. So at least we got to see these superstars, even though it wasn't for anything important. They were on Raw. So I just wanted to at least mention their names, that they were on Raw.
That's right. It's about him sometimes. Like, oh shit, how long has it been since we had Zack Ryder on TV? We're paying him some money. We should probably use him for something. Oh, okay. So that was Raw. That was a Payback experience. I like I told you before we started the show, Doug. I skipped ahead from a lot of Raw. I didn't sit down and watch the whole show from beginning to end. I fast forwarded through. I fast forwarded through the beginning segment until Sheamus came out, because I was like, Triple H, Stephanie, I don't care, but once Sheamus came out, I thought it picked up, and I thought it was really good. And I mean, the good of the show of the bits that I watched outweighed the bad. The Owen segment was awesome. So I mean, just from my impression of it was that it wasn't a bad show, and it got a pretty good rating. It got almost 4 million viewers, which is high for this era, better than it was the last couple of weeks. So that's good. And Elimination Chamber looks like it's actually going to be a show that we would want to watch. I'm
really interested in the tag team one, because you got a lot of high flyers there, and that structure is built to climb. So I mean, it should be that the whole scenario should be interesting. I did definitely like what you didn't mention. We had New Day again put their titles on the line without Xavier Woods at ringside. They put their titles in line against Cesaro and Kid, which completely fell apart. And all the tag teams come down and had that moment to shine. I love that kind of shit, even if most of them are silly little tag teams.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a match like an Elimination Chamber match where there's going to be 6 teams in it, that's what you should do. You should have everybody come out and mix it up with each other. I mean, that's perfectly
like they do with the.
On the last episode of Raw before the Royal Rumble every year, there's going to be a segment, possibly at the end of the show, where there's going to be like 15 or 20 guys in the ring at the same time, and everybody's going to be having like a little mini battle royal. You just know that's going to happen, and that's fun. That's how the fuck else are they supposed to hype the Royal Rumble? So yeah, Elimination Chamber looks really interesting. I thought it was interesting too. I was looking at the card on the Wikipedia page for it, and I noticed that Roman Reigns is on the poster for it, but I don't think Roman's on the show, at least not yet. Maybe they'll add him, between now and then, because it's next week. Maybe they'll put a match on, or he'll be involved in some way. But I thought, wow, that's interesting. Like, Roman Reigns is on the poster for the thing, but he's not in the show at all.
There's no storyline built up for him to fight anybody either. I mean, there's nothing. they would have to really, you got 2 weeks to build something for him, and they can do that, and 2 weeks, throw a match together, but it'll be pretty much well, written stories a lot quicker than that. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah. I think, that Roman would be a guy that they would want to keep on top of. I mean, Roman should be a project, you would think, because, I mean, they blew it with him going into WrestleMania. It's not going to help it if...
with him now that you pulled back from that title picture.
Yeah. Honestly, I think they should have put him in the Intercontinental title match.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the level he should be at right now. I don't for the world title. I don't think he has done anything to earn it. I think put him in the Intercontinental title match.
Lucky Man 1 week during John Cena's United States Open Challenge.
Now, hey, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Have him in the Open Challenge. And they could, I mean, they could do like a double count out or something. Like they wouldn't have to have him, lose. But I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Give him 10 minutes, have him say, just fucking go nuts, and disqualified or get counted out or something. I think that'd be great. Well, Doc, do you have a legend of the week to tell us all about this week?
I do, and I mean, this guy has been responsible for. I would say this guy is the #1 guy responsible for the future of what wrestling is going to be.
Definitely.
I'm talking about Mr. Killer Kowalski, which I believe his original name was Edward Władysław Spolnik. We're calling him Killer Kowalski for now. The man, later known as Killer Kowalski, because he legally changed his name in 1963, was the son of Polish Antoni Spolnik and Maria Borowska. He, his older sister Wanda, and his younger brother Stanley were raised in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Years later, he told interviewers that he wanted to be a wrestler. By the age of 14, he was already 6 foot 4 inches, and because he was thin for his height, he began working out at the local YMCA, but he had no plan to go into athletics at the time. When he entered college, his major was electrical engineering. He worked part-time at the Ford plant in Detroit, whoop whoop, to help pay his way. Several stories of how he actually became a professional wrestler. The most common one is that while attending the University of Detroit, he heard that there was an opportunity to make good pay by wrestling. He was only being paid $50 per plant and was told he could make more as a wrestler. At that time, that's probably true. Since he already had an athletic build, he decided to give wrestling a try and began attending a wrestling school. When he first wrestled professionally, he was known as Tarzan Kowalski, but he also was called Hercules Kowalski, Killer Kowalski, and even the Polish Apollo. According to newspaper reports from 1950 to 1951, these were the nicknames he had gone under. During the Cold War, his name was changed to Waldek Kowalski, which was supposed to actually sound more menacing. Kowalski wrestled from 1947 to 1977 in a numerous organizations, including the National Wrestling League and the American Wrestling Association. Kowalski's rise in the business came quickly. His first recorded match occurred on May 6, 1948, and by November 29th of the same year, Kowalski was facing NWA champion Orville Brown in a heavyweight championship match. Kowalski stood out in his era for his larger-than-normal size and for a faster-paced style in the ring. He wrestled as a demonstrative heel or villain. He usually wrestled as a heel or villain, except when facing the even more hated Buddy Rogers. In his Rogers, Kowalski would adopt a more serious babyface approach. Out of the ring, however, Kowalski was considered so friendly and polite that some wrestling promoters complained about the way he would drop character in public. This is a problem I actually suffered. I was too nice out of the ring when I worked in the business. On October 15, 1952, in a match in Montreal versus Yukon Eric, Kowalski ripped off a part of Yukon Eric's ear while performing a knee drop. In reality, Eric's ear was already badly cauliflowered due to years of abuse and injury. The injury was an accident, but it fortified Kowalski as being a ruthless villain who gleefully maimed his opponents. Kowalski attempted to visit his opponent in the hospital, laughing along with Eric at how silly the bandages look, and Kowalski recalling years later, "I swear the first thing I thought of was Humpty Dumpty on the wall." Yukon Eric looked at me, shook smiled. I started laughing, and he laughed too. When the incident was reported in the paper the next day, it stated that Kowalski showed up at the hospital and laughed at his victim rather than with him, furthering Kowalski's image as a heel. The incident sparked a long-running series of grudge matches between the two, which took place throughout North America, and by the time the feud had run several years later, Yukon Eric joked to Kowalski about the small size of an audience. Shit, that's a lousy house. I might have to sacrifice another ear. Kowalski also gained some notoriety in Boston for an incident in late June of 1958 when he was wrestling Pat O'Connor. The guest referee was former boxing and had to be hospitalized. Dempsey did not blame Kowalski, and both said it was an accident, but this further cemented the killer's reputation as a villain. In 1967, top-rated Australian television talk show host Don Lane irritated Kowalski during an apparently friendly interview and was attacked with Kowalski's claw hold. Also in the late 1950s, Kowalski fought with what was supposed to be a best 2 out of 3 fall match in Fall River, Massachusetts against Mr. Moto. Just before the bell started, the first fall, Kowalski had his back turned to Moto while doing some stretches in the corner. Moto raced across the ring and hit Kowalski over the head with one of the clogs with which he had walked into the ring with. Of course, the referee did not see this. The bell rang, and seemingly dazed Kowalski staggered around the ring and was quickly pinned by Moto. Kowalski was billed as the heavyweight champion at the time, as such was not supposed to lose the match. Just after the second fall started, Kowalski was hit in the right eye with a pea or bean shot by someone in the audience using a pea shooter. Semi-blinded and genuinely stunned, Kowalski staggered around the ring, covering his eye with his right hand. Moto did not know what to do. Finally, he approached Kowalski, bumped into him, and fell to the mat. Kowalski reached down, applied the claw hold, and Moto was not only counted out, but deemed by the referee too hurt to continue. The two raced out of the ring to a chorus of boos from the audience and dodged various objects, being thrown 45 minutes late for their match. The Fall River Herald News reported in its next day morning edition that these two mortal enemies were late because the car in which they had ridden together to the match had broken down on the way. In December of 1972, Kowalski became the first wrestler to pin Andre the Giant in North America in what was billed as a Battle of the Giants. Photographs from the Quebec City match helped... Quebec City in America? What? Okay, maybe I'm confused.
No, North America.
Yeah. They showed him towering over the better-known Kowalski. Kowalski had done much the same to boost Giant Baba's fame in Japan with the televised 1963 match. Kowalski became the main antagonist of Bruno Sammartino in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in the 1960s and 1970s. Kowalski formed a team with fellow heel Gorilla Monsoon and took Red Berry as his manager. Monsoon and Kowalski held the U.S. Tag Team titles, winning the belts in 2 straight falls from Skull Murphy and Brute Bernard on Washington, D.C., on their television station in Washington, local television station at the time. Losing to the Tolo brothers in 2 straight falls in Teaneck, New Jersey, December 1963 as well. On May 11, 1976, Kowalski won the WWF World Tag Team Championship with Big John Studd. Both men wore black masks and tights and called themselves the Executioners. However, they were following the interference of a third Executioner during a title defense against Chief Jay Strongbow and Billy White Wolf. The Executioners lost the match for the vacant title on December 6 to Strongbow and White Wolf and never regained the championship. After his WWF retirement in 1977, Kowalski started a professional wrestling school in Malden, Massachusetts. Due to his health, he ceased to be involved with it by 2003, and the school subsequently moved to North Andover, Massachusetts. Among the alumni of his school are Triple H, Chyna, Perry Saturn, John Kronos, Brittany Brown, Big John Studd, Damian Kane, Killer Kowalski Jr., Ron Zombie, Chris April Hunter, Ace Andrews, R.J. Brewer, Kazarian, Cadillac Joe D, because I like that name, Kenny Dykstra, Damian Sandow, and Fandango. So those guys were all trained by Killer Kowalski. The most notable one right continued to wrestle on independent shows in the early 1980s and worked only sparingly after that. His last match took place in 1993 when Kowalski was 66 years old. He also made numerous post-retirement television appearances, including Late Night with David Letterman, Goodbye Dave, in 1982, and was featured in a comic role in Michelle Burglingame's surrealist film To a Random. That's what it's called, To a Random, in 1986. Lost in the B-Zone was also something he did. It was a music video for the bird songs of the Mozoic, which was derived from the film that I just mentioned. On June 14, 2007, Kowalski was inducted into the National Polish-American Sports Hall of Fame. Kowalski began experiencing escalating health problems in the time leading up to his death. The Sun received the report on Kowalski from his friend, and who was another wrestling legend. Of course, wrestling, I don't need to mention that, it was Bruno Sammartino. That he's a wrestling legend. But yeah, they received a report from him that Kowalski had to go into a rehabilitation center in Everest, Massachusetts, where he was recovering from a knee injury. It seemed he was getting better until he suffered a heart attack on August 8, 2008. According to Slam Sports and other sources, Kowalski's family was apprised that he would not recover. When Kowalski was taken off life support on August 18th, subsequent news reports erroneously stated that he had died. Kowalski died on actual August 30th, 2008. So yeah, he was taken off life support on August 18th. Bitch lived for 12 more days after that.
Yeah.
He was survived by his wife and family in the New England area and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. They're all over. But finishing maneuvers, that diving knee drop and that famous Kowalski claw, he would either apply it to your forehead or to your stomach. But that's my tale of take on someone who just did subtle things and became a heel, really an infamous heel by accident on a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, when I say that he's solely responsible for probably shaping the future of wrestling, and that's why I'm referred to Triple H, that's Killer Kowalski. He deserves to be in our legend category, and so there he is.
The greatest, or one of the most hated heels of his era. I mean, he did what he did during what I guess maybe we could call work, and people hated Kowalski. I mean, fucking hated him. Thought he was just the worst son of a bitch walking because he was so mean and he would bite people, and he like you said, he ripped a guy's fucking ear off. He's a terrible person. And yeah, he worked from the 50s up through the 70s as a main. Where he faced Bruno Sammartino in Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's a big fucking deal. And he was great. He was a great worker. He was a great wrestler. He was a great personality. And then when you add in the fact that he was a guy who ran a wrestling school that turned out so much amazing talent, really, other than maybe Vern Gagne, Kowalski's probably the most influential, most important trainer of the last 40 or 50 years. I mean, when you
and we're not being ignorant to Stu Hart.
No, Stu Hart was amazing, but Stu Hart, the sheer number of people. I mean, because yeah, Stu trained all his kids and Benoit and Jericho and Lance Storm. I mean, Stu Hart trained a lot of people, but I mean, when you look at the sheer number of people that were trained by Vern and I just don't even think it's close. I mean, just going by sheer numbers. Now, if you want to go by by just the amount of talent, you could make a case for Stu, I think, because I do think people who came out of the dungeon knew the fuck how to wrestle, But Kowalski, I mean, Christ, and just look the number of eras. I mean, he was training people in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. I mean, from his most graduate is probably Triple H, but yeah, he was also responsible for helping to train Fandango and Damien Sandow, which came along much later than Triple H. He just absolutely a legend and definitely deserves of a mention on our little show, and of course a spot in any discussion about wrestling legends. Killer Kowalski definitely belongs right up there. So Doc, what do you have as far as a WWE Network recommendation this week?
Well, legend. I mean, he's hard to find because you're starting to go back in time where TV didn't exist. Sorry. But I did find it on the network. I'm going to have to go with a little bit of old school. From March 17th, 1975, filmed at Madison Square Garden. You got up against Victor Rivera, so that's a great match. You also got great People like Ivan Putski, Bruno Sammartino, Spiros Arion, they're on the show. Fez, Chief J Strongbow, they're on the show. Classy Freddie Blassie's on the show. So I mean, just a ton of legends. Paul Vachon, the Butcher Vachon, I recommend. I love the Vachon family. So yeah, check that out. Even the Wolfman, he's going to face off against Ivan Putski. So check that out. March 17th, 1975, Old School on the network.
I'm gonna have to check that out myself. My recommendation is it is based on our experience at Payback. One of the cool things about going to Payback for me was that Payback was held in what used to be the Baltimore Arena. Now it's called the Royal Farms Arena, but it's the Baltimore Arena. And if you're a wrestling fan, especially if you're a wrestling fan from our part of the country, the Baltimore Arena is kind of a historic building. Because it was the site of more Great American Bash pay-per-views than any other venue. It was not the home of every Great American Bash pay-per-view, but there were far more held there than at any other in a row. And they would do a year at another place and then come back to the Baltimore Arena. So it's just a really historic building. And one of the first thoughts I had when we said we were going to Payback and I saw that it was at the Baltimore Arena was, holy shit, the Baltimore Arena is where Sting won his first world championship. And that's the show I'm recommending. It's the Great American Bash from 1990, July 1990, actually. Took place at the Baltimore Arena. And some of the matches on the show are Mike Rotunda versus the Iron Sheik, Buddy Landell, Harley Race versus Tommy Rich. There's a couple of legends going at it. The Midnight Express versus the Southern Boys. That is an awesome match. Steiner versus the Freebirds. That's another cool match. Lex Luger versus a fellow named Mean Mark Callis, who would go on to much greater fame and fortune about a year later. The Undertaker.
Oh, I thought villain in Suburban Commando.
Yes, he was that guy too. Event Sting versus Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. A really, really historic show. One of my favorite shows. When I was old and I heard that Sting had won his first world championship at this show, I was 10 years old and a huge mark for Sting. So that was a big moment for me. It's this show, the Great American Bash 1990. That's my recommendation. There you go. We are going to pull this fucker in right on schedule, Doc. How about that?
That recommendation there, that's an awesome recommendation. You know, and I just want to say that nostalgia, I think professional wrestling is the only thing nostalgia actually works on. Okay? Just you feel good about something that was that old, and you'll still fucking get that same feeling when you watch it again.
You definitely will. Absolutely. I know because I watched that Bash show within the last couple of months. And yeah, I mean, even though you know exactly what's going to happen and you're watching something that's, 30 years old, you still feel like, oh, I'm 10 years old again. Yeah. So that's it for us, everybody. Thank you for watching as always. Check out the Facebook group, the Wrestling with Wrestling Facebook page, because especially now, because Doc took so many pictures and videos of Payback, you get to see what our view was like. Stands, you get to see some stuff that you couldn't see on the pay-per-view, like little pictures and videos that Doc took of the matches, and it's just really, really cool. And a lot of new content from our little trip to Baltimore over the weekend. So check it out, like our Facebook page, and check it out for that, if for no other reason. But you should, if you watch the show, you should probably check out the Facebook page anyway, because it's a really cool way to interact with us and keep up on what we're doing next.
One little click, click.
Yeah, that's all you need to do.
One little click. That's all it takes. It's free. It's not going. We're not coming after your personal information. We promise you.
No, we're not Gmail. We're going to come after your personal info. So yeah, like the Facebook page. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next week. Take care, everybody.